Just watching some YouTube videos. Here's an adorable little girl. I wonder what this ad's about. Oh, she's gorgeous. Oh, those blue eyes. Oh, she deserves to be loved. Sure. I mean, it's a strange choice of words there, but yeah, she deserves to be loved, I guess. She deserves to be wanted. Strange choice of words, but yeah, sure, I'll go with it. Oh, how adorable. She deserves to be a choice. Okay, a choice. Oh, getting that queasy feeling again. I don't know. Good thing I've got these Rennie Rapids. Now, let me get this right. If we choose to want to love her, she deserves to live. But if we choose not to want to love her, then, I've just had an idea. Oh, Lucy! Lucy! Oh, there you are. Sunshine of my love, my sun, moon, and stars. Lucy, I want to show you how much I love you. I want to show you how I love you more than all the other boys and girls. You are a choice, Lucy. Wendy! Wendy! Oh, there you are. Wendy, I want you to know I've made a choice. Lucy, behold my love. Why are you crying? Here, have an antacid.
LIVEcast, welcome to the LIVEcast, welcome to the show. LIVEcast, welcome to the LIVEcast, welcome to the show.
Hey!
Hello, welcome to the Livecast.
For the first time ever,
Live on YouTube.
On YouTube!
Oh my goodness me.
Facebook is down, and I've never felt more free. It's a beautiful feeling. Imagine if Twitter went down as well. Like, I would just, like, the weight would just slink off my shoulders.
Yeah.
I would run through the
It'd be
streets.
free. What is that?
Saying, Eureka!
What is that film
Liberation.
or TV program where someone's just like, we're free?
We're free.
What's that? What is it?
I don't know.
Definitely something.
Okay, yeah. I don't need to be hunched over my smartphone. I'm liberated. So yeah, Facebook's loss is YouTube's gain, and this is our first YouTube Live. And come say hello on YouTube.
I've got no way of knowing on here. Oh, it says 5.
7.
Oh, mine says 5.
I got 7 watching.
Oh, well, they clearly tuned in for you, Glenn.
How does that work? Maybe you count twice or something.
Maybe.
So yeah, nice to see you on YouTube, and we will post this on Facebook later. But love to get your comments on YouTube. Who wants to be our first YouTube commenter on a YouTube live video?
Ever?
Yeah, come on, make
What an
history,
honour.
Make history, people. But now someone's thinking this better be good.
Yeah.
Better say something astonishing. But we shall say 8 people are watching.
It's crazy.
It's exciting.
I mean, the issue is that in the, what has it been, 20 minutes, 30 minutes since we should have been live,
Yeah.
Now everything we planned for has gone out of my head.
Out of your
entirely.
head.
So we've got one comment. Neil Coleman just says, not me.
Clever, Neil. I like it. So you may have noticed we had our monologue, which was yet another response to a pro-abortion ad that's been out for a while.
Yeah.
But it had a second wind recently. I saw it on Twitter maybe like a week ago. And describe to us, Paul, what that original YouTube ad was all about.
Yeah, so the original ad really starts off with this, it's the Brahms lullaby, lovely, nice little bit of music.
I love that you knew that it was Brahms.
Yeah, well,
and you love that you knew it was Brahms too.
Hey. So Brahms lullaby and this little baby girl on the screen, and the words come up, she deserves to be loved, and you're kind of like, oh yeah, of course. Then you're back to the little girl gurgling and giggling, and she deserves to be wanted. Yeah, beautiful, lovely, okay.
Yeah.
And more giggling, beautiful baby girl. Then up comes the girl again. She deserves to be a choice.
A choice?
And then hashtag stand with PP, stand with Planned Parenthood.
And at that stage, we're busting out the antacids, and my goodness, yeah. So especially because she's such a cute little girl. Like, how audacious to put the face of the child on the video and then to say, well, we chose to want to love her.
Well, it's a lot of people commented, because it did do rounds again on Twitter, and people were commenting and saying it's one thing, not a good thing, but it's one thing to talk of children in the womb.
Right.
that you can't really see, that are in a sense faceless from us.
Right.
To talk about them in those kind of terms, to put a baby on the screen and use that kind of language. I mean, the only thing I was heartened by was the response to it on YouTube, which I think it had like 94 likes and about 5,000...
6,500 dislikes. Yes.
You just thought, my goodness me, like, humanity is still out there somewhere. Like,
yeah. I commented on it, and it appears to my channel as though I'm the only commenter.
Yeah, it was weird, wasn't it? Because it doesn't look like comments are disabled, but nobody had commented on it at all, which is surprising, because everyone's got something to say on YouTube. Yes. Except Neil Coleman, obviously.
Not me.
Not me.
So, yeah, so in response to that pro-abortion ad, we've done kind of two different takes on it, two different responses to it. Last night we released something that was more of a horror, and I guess today with the monologue we've attempted something that's more like comedy. But I guess then the question comes, well, if you attempt comedy about the most serious issue ever, I mean, it is the greatest genocide imaginable, about a billion babies aborted in the last 100 years. Why make comedy about it? Is making comedy the same thing as making light of something?
Yeah.
And I think the answer to that is no. I think that actually you can make comedy out of something that is very serious, and you can make a serious point out of something, even playing it for laughs. And my argument would be that actually the Bible does this quite a bit, and that actually, in terms of logical arguments, how's your Latin, Paul? Is it up to scratch?
Oh, phenomenal!
Okay,
yeah, phenomenal.
So within logical arguments, there's something called a reductio ad absurdum, which your schoolboy Latin renders
reducing to absurdity.
Yeah. Okay. There we go.
Yeah. So Latin's good there.
Benefits of a classical education. Hey, the school system in Wales is top notch.
I mean, it was up there. I mean, it was probably the second language behind Welsh, obviously Latin.
And then Latin.
No.
And then English, maybe. Yeah, English is my second language, so that's my excuse for everything. But so reducing something to absurdity is something that the Bible kind of does all the time, and it even does that to very serious things. So, for instance, in Job, you've got this epic poem about Job the sufferer, and towards the end of Job, he gets a bit ahead of himself and starts to cast himself as though he's God, and then God actually shows up and sort of says, "So where were you exactly when I stretched out the heavens, and where were you when I made the Horsehead Nebula? Tell me if you know, Job." And he's reducing Job's sort of argument to absurdity, and you think of other things like Solomon. In order for Solomon to make his wise pronouncement about the two mothers and which child is the living child and which child is the dead child, is like, I know, let's just cut the living child in two and see what happens, right? Which is, like, in one sense, that's funny. Like, it's kind of played for laughs. It's like, oh, fine. Okay, let's go halves then.
Yep.
Bring me a sword. And, of course, that flushes out the real mother, and so the wisdom of Solomon is proved. But he's doing a reductio ad absurdum. Or Elijah in 1 Kings 18, there he is saying to the dumb idol Baal, where are you?
Maybe your God is asleep. Maybe he's on the toilet.
Maybe your God's on the toilet. Not very genteel of the prophet. And then you come into the New Testament, and Jesus everywhere is reducing things to absurdity. And he's sort of, like with the Pharisees, is that they're so fastidious about everyone else's morality and not their own. They're like tutting eye doctors who are worried about the speck in your eye when all the while they've got a plank of wood in their own eye. That's an absurd image. It's or the rich. You can get a rich man into heaven the day you can get a camel through the eye of a needle. Like, he's actually being funny there. He's actually using comedy, and he's actually using comedy to make serious points. Like with the Pharisees in Matthew chapter 23, they're like whitewashed tombs. They are the blind leading the blind. Again, he's using absurd images to make serious points. And then, of course, there's the example of the Apostle Paul in Galatians 5. Who is arguing with the circumcision sect and saying, well, look, if you think circumcision makes you holier, then go for it, lads.
Go the whole hog.
Go the whole hog. And in a sense, he's playing it for laughs, but making a very serious point. So I would say that there is a time and a place for confronting the shocking logic of the pro-abortion lobby with horror, and I think there's a time and a place for approaching it with comedy, but that's not the same as making light of it. That's my kind of argument. I don't know what people think.
Sure, and I mean we thought a little bit as well, didn't we, about applying that logic. I mean, in the video you do apply that logic with the toddlers or the children, and you can apply the same idea at the other end of the scale, can't you?
Right.
If those who are no longer loved or wanted,
right,
do we just get rid of them? So go around our care homes and and sometimes it's just exposing those things, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
So and if you can do it in a way like that's kind of engaging, I'm sure some people we can talk about it a bit more when we think about the other one, but people will be outraged. But
I mean, I've just thought of another joke. We could play with the children. If it's all about being a choice, and someone should be really thrilled that they were chosen not to be torn to pieces with forceps. Oh, how kind of us not to tear Lucy to pieces with forceps, but instead to tear Wendy to pieces. We could play kind of duck dismembered. Going around the children, duck, dismembered, and then they fall down or something. I don't know. That would be, it is, and at times I do think we need to laugh with horror at the horrific logic of an abortion mill that basically says we love some, and we express that love by actually eliminating those who we don't choose. It's just. It's horrific, and sometimes you burst that bubble with comedy, and sometimes you burst that bubble by showing the horror of it. And I guess that's what we tried to do last night with our response video. Mm-hmm. Should we talk about it first, or have a look at it first? What do you think?
Probably just look at it first. Do you think?
Let's have a look at last night's response video.
A D&E procedure is a blind abortion, so picture yourself introducing this and grabbing anything you can blindly and pull, and I do mean hard, and out pops a leg about that big, which you put down on the table next to you. Reach in again, pull out an arm about the same length, which you put down on the table next to you, and use this instrument again and again to tear out the spine, the intestines, the heart and lungs. Head on the baby that size is about the size of a large plum. Can't see it, but you've pretty good idea you've got it if you've got your instrument around something and your fingers are spread about as far as they go. You know you did it right if you crush down on the instrument and white material runs out of the cervix. That was the baby's brains. Then you could pull out skull pieces. And you have a day like I had a lot of times. Sometimes a little face comes back and stares back at you. Congratulations, you just successfully performed a second trimester D&E abortion. You just affirmed her right to choose.
There we go.
Much more sobering.
Yeah, much more so. But I mean, and it is kind of obviously, there's no playing it for laughs there, but it is still shocking. But I think there is a place for being shocking, because actually what was on there, there's nothing. Well, I mean, we didn't show anything there for a start. Mm-hmm. It's simply a description. But there is a place to be shocking, I think, because I think it's obvious as you look at some of the faces of the people on that video who are sitting there, you get the sense that there is a good number of them who probably had no idea about what the procedure is.
Right.
And I know lots of people who I've spoken to have got no idea what the procedure is.
Right.
I know I think you mentioned on your interview, it was either with John Wyatt or with
Callum Miller.
Callum Miller, you know, you're reading out the Wikipedia description and there's someone saying, that absolutely can't be true. That's not what happens.
Yes.
You know?
And Wikipedia is not known for being propaganda for the, you know, the pro-life movement.
Yeah, sure. So I think all that's happening there is a guy who, that guy, Dr. Anthony Levatino, who he said he did something like 1,200 abortions in his lifetime, before kind of coming to a point where he changed kind of his ways. There's someone who knows the process. He's just explaining simply what the process was, a process that he had done many, many times. And as you listen to it, you can see people are shocked and sickened by it.
Right.
The response, I've not seen any real negative response to the video so far. It's not been out that long. But I remember when we went to Brefos, like someone said, like people are outraged by sometimes the images or like things like that, the description. The irony is that people are more outraged by someone getting up and just saying this is what happens and this is what it looks like than they are by the actual practice itself. Right. So they're scandalised that you would stand up and say this is what abortion is. Yeah. But they're not scandalised by abortion itself. Right. Which is the most bizarre thing. Yeah. But I think, there is a place for shock, and, maybe we'll get there in some of our other videos as well. But, we've talked about the use of images over the centuries and, the way images have changed public opinion when people have seen things. Yeah, yeah. So there is a value in it. I think you've got to kind of be as... I suppose you can get it wrong. I suppose you can definitely get it wrong, but there's a place for it. Yeah. And I think particularly with the issue of abortion, when you're showing images of abortion or just describing it, you're simply showing or describing a practice that is legal in the country. And when people, other people say, "Oh, it's just a health thing" or whatever, it's a health issue. Why should the pictures of that or description of the process be any more shocking or sickening than me talking about, having a kidney transplant? Yeah. But people don't get the same kind of squeamishness about it. Especially
when, like, on BBC prime time, you'll watch Silent Witness, which is just, like, set in a morgue, and they chop up bodies all the time. Yeah. But they won't show an abortion. Yeah, and when you think about, like, the liberation of the concentration camps after World War II, one of the things that the Allies did was make the village that was close to Dachau or close to Auschwitz, make those citizens who knew kind of what was going on in the death camps, and their economy was based on it, but they didn't quite know what was going on. They made them go into cinemas and watch film of the cleanup operation in those death camps and the piles of dead bodies. Yeah. And there is footage of a camera that was pointed the other way at the audience, just sort of covering their eyes, covering their face. But they thought it was important that people saw the horror of what was going on, and that we couldn't make any steps forward without people acknowledging the horror of what had been. And how much more is that the case when we're not beyond the concentration camps? Yep. They're going on, and people need to see, and people need to know what's going on.
Yeah, absolutely.
So there are ways of doing it, and I'm sure we will get it wrong, but I'm also quite sure that we won't get anywhere on this issue, which is the greatest genocide history has ever seen. We won't get anywhere unless we're actually dealing in truth. And unless you can name what's going on and think about it for what it actually is, you can't make any progress.
And I think, shining light on something that's in the on the dark is definitely a good thing, isn't it? And I think the one thing that works in our favour on an issue like abortion is that because it is legal, I think you should be able to, when people kind of get up in arms about seeing stuff about it, you can just say, well, why are you up in arms? This is just legal. This is something legal in our country. There are plenty of other legal things you have no issue. Why do you find this so abhorrent? It's not like this is a kind of hidden. Well, it is hidden, but it's not it's not a forbidden practice.
Yeah.
You know, that people
Yeah.
don't want to
Yeah.
kind of ever come to light. It's something that everybody knows goes on, and most people just kind of get on with their lives. So
Yeah.
it works in our favour in a sense that it's legal, I think.
Yeah.
Because you can just be like, well, you know, you're happily letting this go on, so why have any issue with looking at it?
Yeah.
And the fact is, people do have issue with looking at it, and I think that shows
Yep.
that we know it's not right.
Yeah.
You know, as
Yeah.
we look
Yeah.
something deep in us. You know, like I say, it's not the same when you see the kidney being removed. You know, even
Yep.
if you're a bit squeamish,
Yeah.
you're not sitting there going, "Oh, this makes me feel like morally uncomfortable."
Right.
You know,
No.
This is abhorrent. This is
Right.
sickening, and
Yeah. It goes far beyond disgust.
yeah.
It goes to a moral abhorrence. So why are we talking about this issue? Because, you know, we're a charity that exists to lift up the name of Jesus, and that's entirely what we want to do, and we want people to meet Jesus. So why do we talk about this kind of social issue, this moral issue, when actually what we want to do is tell the good news of Jesus to the world? Do you have an answer to that?
Sure. Yeah. Well, I mean, I think. I mean, we've talked on previous ones, haven't we, about how the Bible, if we had taken a biblical view, I mean, it would be very hard to make the Bible supportive of abortion.
Sure.
I mean, Psalm 139, obviously a very kind of clear bit, but you've got John the Baptist being in Elizabeth's womb, Jesus obviously in Mary's womb. And so I think, you know, actually we see from the Bible that these are lives, these are human lives, and you know, we should want to stand against, you know, this kind of evil that is going on. And
I think also, like, if we're preaching that the world is under judgment and that God is really angry at a world that is gone to hell, so to speak. You know, so Romans 1 talks about the wrath of God being revealed from heaven against all the ungodliness and of people who suppress the truth in their unrighteousness. Is that really the case? And would God really be so angry with us? And why on earth would he be? And actually, I find that if you're committed to preaching a gospel that says, hey, we really are in trouble, we really need the Son of God to come and redeem us, save us, because otherwise we are stuck in this hellishness that goes on forever, and it's called hell. Like, if we really believe that, so often that is part of the gospel, right? That is part of what we proclaim to the world, that when Jesus came, he came as an answer to hell, right? To actual hell. And so often the response I get when I just preach that, you know, let's just preach the gospel. So I preach that message, and that is part of the message. And people will then say, really? Like, really? Is the world really that sick? Is the world really that hellish? Is God really that angry? What a petty God to be so angry at the world like this. And so actually, I've found it more and more an organic part of what I'm saying to people. This is more in face-to-face conversation, but more and more when people are having an issue with the judgment question, just to be able to say, yeah, we are killing 200,000 babies a year. Does that make you angry? And if it doesn't, it's not that there's something wrong with God that he's angry at this world. If we're not angry, there's something wrong with us.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and I think as well, like, a reason we should talk about it is like you say, because people should be angry about it, but it's not on people's agendas in some way. So I would say it seems mind-boggling, but there's probably plenty of Christians out there who are putting more of their time and effort into getting rid of plastic straws,
right,
than they are,
right,
you know,
right,
stopping babies being killed,
right.
Which, you know, I'm not saying we shouldn't be working towards good environmental issues.
Yeah.
But I kind of say, look, you know, if
right.
you had a gun to your head, which one's going to be the one you're going to try and sort out here?
Yeah, yeah. And there is a gun to her head. So can we sort that out?
So,
yeah.
And you know, the Bible, and you know, we see God's heart all through the Bible, art for the oppressed and for the vulnerable and stuff. And there's no one more oppressed and vulnerable than the unborn.
Right.
Right. You know, and we ought to. I mean, it's a different. There's. I think in some ways, maybe I've changed my thinking on stuff, because there's a lot of time. I think there's a lot of Christians, or my opinion would have been there are a lot of Christians who spend a lot of time trying to make the world adhere to Christian values. Basically just ending up being pretty much just moralists a lot of the time, I would say. And I've always kind of thought, well, you know, where do you balance that? So if I give you an example of what I'm talking about, I'm thinking more of the Christian. I'm thinking more of the Christians who seem to be spending a lot of their time writing letters, complaining that supermarket Easter eggs don't say Easter on them anymore.
Right.
You know.
Right.
Quite frankly, I couldn't give a monkeys. And I think I've said it on here before. You know, if you didn't rest until every Easter egg under the sun bore the word Easter, no one would be any nearer the kingdom for it.
Because it's so important that chocolate eggs maintain their place at the heart of our faith.
So, but then you kind of think, okay, but then there were people, there have been Christians who've spoken up on moral issues, like the issue of things like slavery.
Yeah.
And you think, well, actually, that was something worth speaking about. So how do you weigh what is and what isn't, and what stuff do you let slide as kind of, this is just society and we can never expect them to adhere to, you know, Christian ways. Yeah. And and what are the other things? I think, you know, if there was ever anything which was pretty much clear cut, you'd say it was probably one of this issue. You know. Yeah. That we should speak up about this. Yeah. Particularly when you see the parallels, as we've talked about, between it and things like, you know, the Holocaust and the concentration camps. You say, well, we would want to speak up about that, wouldn't we? Even if the church, I mean, but we see how the church failed at the time. Yeah. You know, so that was it the confessing church that basically just fell in line with the Nazis, and then of course
the confessing were the good guys.
There we go.
So,
okay. So
yeah,
right.
the national, the German national church was sort of would have swastikas in the churches.
Yeah, exactly.
You know.
And so you can see how even in those situations, some people just went with the flow. Yeah. Yeah. And the danger is that, and so I look at that and you just think, how could they have done that? That's like abhorrent that the church would do that. But yet you look at us now and you go, well, we're not really going with the flow. We're just doing nothing. Like, it's like we're even unaware the flow's going. Yeah. You know. Yeah. So we are going with the flow, I suppose. But yeah.
But I think there's got to be a gospel way of coming at it, and I don't know. I mean, we're kind of new to this and new to producing media on this issue and new to speaking into this issue. And there's lots of people with lots more wisdom than us. But it seems to me like there's two places I want to go when I start thinking about this issue, and one of them's Christmas and one of them's Easter. And you know, at Christmas we remember that Jesus, the Son of the Father, became our brother when he was conceived by the Holy Spirit, born of the Virgin Mary. So, like, right there at the heart of the creed, right there at the heart of the gospel, is that the Son of God became an embryo, became a single cell in Mary's womb. And he became an embryo for all embryos. He became a fetus for all fetuses. He became an infant for all infants, and a teenager for all teenagers, and a man for all men. So, Jesus... Actually, the heart of the incarnation is that actually he embraces and loves and wants to redeem and is for the embryo, right? And from the point of conception. And so therefore, like, how do we know that God loves the world? Well, God so loved the world, he gave his one and only Son. How do we know that God loves the unborn? Well, he was conceived by the Holy Spirit, born of the Virgin Mary. Like, he became the unborn. My goodness. So... you know, how do we even think about this issue? Well, Christmas is at the heart of it, and then Easter is at the heart of it, because 1 Corinthians 1 says that, you know, while we might prize power and wisdom, God prizes the despised things and the weak things and the things that are not, because he prizes Christ and him crucified. And I think it's just so interesting on the abortion issue that what we always want to say is the unborn, they're not really humans. This is the pro-choice argument. They're not really humans because they're not powerful enough and they're not wise enough, right? They're not independent enough to be able to stand on their own 2 feet in this world, and they don't have the mental capacity to be, you know, deemed as fellow members of the human race. And it's entirely this Greek argument from 1 Corinthians 1. We are into power, we are into wisdom. And so surely the people of the cross should be the people who stand alongside the weak and the despised things and the things that are not, the shameful, the things that look foolish and powerless. Are entirely the things that God loves and wants to lift up. So I think as we focus on Christmas and Easter, I think hopefully we can have a gospel shape to what it is that we say on this issue. But yeah, I think there is still a question of, are we just being moralists as we talk about this? And one argument against that is like, well, when it comes to genocide, I think I'll risk being called a moralist. But then there is that positive question. Yeah, how do we positively preach the gospel in and through this issue? And yeah, we'd love to hear what you guys think on that issue. 20 people are now watching on YouTube. This is as many as we get on Facebook.
Yeah.
Forget
Absolutely.
Facebook. See you later, Facebook. YouTube is our new jam. So, yeah, I'm sure we'll return to this issue in the future. But if you've been struck by either of our videos that we've released in the last 24 hours, last night's Dr. Levatino video, and then today's monologue video, then we're releasing them independently, and get sharing and see what kind of conversations you get into on Facebook and YouTube. And yeah, we'd love to be a part of that conversation.
Yeah.
Great. Well, in terms of things that are in the news, you know, we always try to address, you know, the latest,
of the day,
the trending hashtags and all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
And we have to mention Jordan Peterson, obviously.
JBP.
Ding.
Yeah.
So done. Okay. So we've checked the Jordan Peterson box. But there's one thing, Paul, that I don't think we've ever really addressed.
No, not at all, and that's surprising, really, given the prevalence.
Yeah.
Of
this
society
one
today.
issue. We've never said anything about Brexit.
No, we've not.
Because we're cowards, people. We're cowards. I like to think that it's because we're so very wise and cautious and guarded, and we want to set a guard over our mouth so that we don't say anything too foolish. You know, you might be surprised to learn that here on the LIVEcast, we want to say things only that we know something about. We want to say things that don't cause unnecessary offence. Obviously, you know, things that we say will be offensive.
You should have run through these with me before we started. Like...
We want to at least be able to pretend some knowledge to some of the issues that we talk about. So we want to show that we know something about an issue. We want to speak without causing unnecessary offence, and we want to be able to speak on something with biblical wisdom. And so we've been putting our heads together, you know, really, I mean, ever since June 23rd, 2016, really trying to think.
Pretty much, yeah.
Trying to think.
Before I even worked here.
Yeah,
we were on this one.
We're just thinking about Brexit the whole time.
No.
How can we speak about it knowledgeably? How can we speak about it without causing unnecessary offence? How can we speak about it with biblical wisdom? And I think over the course of the last 18 months, we've put together some thoughts. And so, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, I'd like to share with you our Brexit wisdom. There it is.
That's great.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to overreach on that kind of thing. I mean,
that sums up my feelings. I'll be honest though. I was driving to work this morning, and I listened to Radio 4 in the car now.
Okay. Radio 4.
I know.
Oh man.
I know. Hit that stage.
It'll be 5 Live next.
It's fine between 8 and 9. You just don't want to hit any of the dramas in the middle of the day. That's a bad thing. And I was just thinking, like, all they're talking about is Brexit all the time. I was like, I'm so fed up of this.
Okay.
I thought, like, literally, I mean, what's it going to be like when we're done?
It will never be done. It's like the Hotel California. You can check out of the EU, but you can never leave.
It's just like, all they talk about is Brexit the whole time. Ever since I started listening to Radio 4, in that slot, 8 till 9, there's been nothing apart from Brexit.
Yeah.
And I'm just fed up with it now. I need other news.
Yeah.
You know? I don't know if it's the right thing to do or the wrong thing to do. I don't even care anymore. Just lost the will to live on that one. No.
I think you're speaking for a whole nation there.
No, nobody knows. I mean,
if there is a people's vote, that should be the third box.
Yeah.
Really,
lost
I don't
will
care.
To live. Yeah.
Like, please just decide something.
And you know, the government's just, you know, one day they're saying, "Oh, Theresa May, you know, lots of support," and then the next day they're saying all the ministers have resigned, and then you know, I think like next week. I think I can't do LIVEcast next week, so I think I'm shadow Brexit. I think I'm doing Brexit. Turn. It's my turn to be Brexit.
Yeah, you've been called up.
Yeah, between 2 and 4. So, like, flipping heck, it's just an absolute nightmare, isn't it? So, and I've got no real biblical wisdom on it. So, no wisdom at all.
No, none. So when you pass it through the filters of, do we know something about it? Can we speak without causing unnecessary offence? No. That's the big. That's kind of the big problem for me, anyway. And then, can we speak with biblical wisdom? Well, we might have a go. Someone's commented. Andrew Shaw is watching from on holiday in Japan. Hello, it's 11 at night
there. Oh, brilliant.
Weird. And DJ321, why are you called 321? Is it because no, probably not.
It was when he was trying to find the name, or it could be a she. I suppose.
She.
DJ1. Oh, someone's got that. DJ2. Oh man.
All the way up to 321. Anyway, DJ321 said, it's because the Facebook didn't work for me.
It didn't work for us either.
No.
That's why we're here.
And DJ321 just said, sorry, no. And it's a she.
Man. It's a she.
Well, hello.
She's a she.
She yeah, great. About to make a pronoun joke, but thought, no. We prayed for wisdom.
Said nothing that would cause offence.
That's right.
You not learned.
No pronoun jokes.
No.
Although, we'll talk in a second about in Crowborough. So we just did an outreach to Crowborough, which All Saints Crowborough is where Paul goes, and there was a whole weekend, and there was a couple there who kind of came to faith around about the time when I went up and preached 2.5 years ago.
Yep.
And I preached on 321 then. And so that became important for them. And then just the other day, they became Christians, and then lots of stuff has happened, and we might talk about that. But then they entered into this like tombola, like bingo raffle thing.
Gambling.
Well, I think it was for charity. It was for charity, man. It was for charity. And there's discipleship issues, obviously, to work out. You know, it takes time. But they got given a ticket, and it was 321, and they won. They won with 321. It's a sign. Why did I mention that? I don't know. Because of DJ 321.
That's it. Yeah, exactly.
For those listening on the podcast, they've got no hope, do they? Andy,
well,
will they have heard even the wind blowing when we had the tumbleweeds blowing through for the Brexit wisdom? We don't know. We don't know.
Well, in case I didn't hear that, now you know there were tumbleweeds.
There were tumbleweeds.
So we're just explaining that for you now, so you can enjoy every moment of this podcast.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, with Brexit, is there biblical wisdom? Well, I mean, one thing it does is it certainly pricks any bubble you might have of thinking that political answers are any kind of hope for the human race.
Does anyone think that?
Well,
really?
Well, we kind of do, because we put these people in position, and then we wait for them to make a mistake, and then we absolutely unleash on them all our disappointments that this person was not the Messiah.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So and so what's helpful in one sense about the omni shambles that is Brexit is that like everyone is culpable. Like you've got this David Cameron figure who, you know, calls the referendum and then loses, and then he's off out and he's kind of enjoying Pimm's in the Cotswolds, and I don't know what David Cameron's doing, but and then you know, and then you've got the pro-Brexit, people who aren't really, stepping up to the plate. You've got
Boris,
Gove
they all disappeared, didn't they?
And you've got Theresa, who's doing her best but doesn't believe in Brexit and is kind of forced through a non-Brexit Brexit, and the whole time the thing that I think might cause unnecessary offence, but here goes anyway, is like surely the EU are not covering themselves in glory in the way that they're sort of transacting this.
In what sense?
In terms of these punitive like costs that they are imposing on Britain for why can't we go our own way? So how many?
I think I'd be the same
if you were the EU.
I think I'd just be like, why should I? If you're gonna stuff this up for everyone else, for the other 27 odd nations, why wouldn't I make it as difficult for you as possible? I can totally understand it, to be honest. But
I think that then reveals its hand as really wanting to be this European superstate that is not content to shrink ever, and only ever content to grow in size. which is precisely why people voted Brexit. It's like, I've got this funny feeling that the EU wants to be this massive superstate that increasingly, takes over.
Yeah.
And they kind of voted against it. And then, yeah, the EU has proved itself to be kind of that.
I don't think we know why people voted Brexit, though, because everyone had different reasons, didn't they? I don't think there's kind of one overwhelming consensus as to what it was, because some people talked about sovereignty and some people talked about immigration and all kinds of
racism.
things,
It can only possibly be because of racism. That's one theory. Not a theory that I subscribe to, but yeah. So, but I don't think anyone is covered in glory on this issue. And so, does it not? Then it actually makes people look a lot more locally, I think, for their answers, rather than looking for, we thought that Westminster might have been the place to see change happen in the world. We thought that Brussels might have been the place to see change in the world. And actually, it might force us to just clean up our rooms and, set our world in perfect order before criticising the world,
So vote JBP for next
Peterson for president. I don't know.
Prime Minister, right?
But yeah.
I love this comment here from DJ321. My sister asked me what Brexit is last week, and she wasn't joking. I explained it was the UK leaving the EU, to which she replied, "Oh, is that still going on?" Yeah, I know how she feels.
Exactly.
Man.
Exactly. Well, that's our Brexit wisdom. Should we play it again, just in case people missed it the first time round? Brexit wisdom.
Oh, there it is.
Brexit opinion.
Brexit opinion. But Teresa's just longing for those fields of wheat again, to be back there.
There it is.
Happy times.
This is why you tune in to the livecast for our incisive political commentary.
Oh dear.
Brilliant. Well, if you do enjoy our incisive political commentary, and if you enjoy our outreach into this online space, we are putting on a foundry. I don't know, putting on is not the right word. We're establishing a foundry where we forge evangelist and evangelistic resources to bless the church and reach the world. And we've got an opportunity starting in September 2019 for people to come, study with us, go on mission with us, produce resources together with us. And we've got a little clip we've put together, which we hope might get you excited about coming and joining us in September 2019. With the Speak Life Foundry, we want to forge evangelists and evangelistic resources to bless the church and reach the world. Why not come join us? We will study together, go on mission together, and produce resources together that will reach this online space. YouTube has 1.8 billion monthly users. Facebook has 2.3 billion monthly users. If they were countries, they would be the biggest countries on planet Earth. But who are the missionaries? Come to us and let's forge this missionary activity together that will reach this online space and make a noise for Jesus.
It would be great to have you join us as we learn together how to project manage the whole creative process, from scripting, coming up with ideas, filming and editing. We'll be working together as a team, developing some incredible resources.
And we want to train you theologically. Jesus said that we'll be fruitful as we abide in the vine, as we spend time with Christ in His Word. And so we want to spend time having a robust Trinitarian, Christ-centered theology that will stand us in good stead to produce all these great world-reaching resources. We're starting in September 2019 down here in Eastbourne.
And if that sounds exciting, then come and join us. Fill out the form below and get in touch.
Brilliant. So go to speaklifefoundry.com and check us out.
It's exciting. Yeah, it's going to be good, isn't it?
Yeah. In fact, don't go there. Go to speaklife.org.uk/foundry. That would be better. speaklife.org.uk/foundry. But yeah, we'd love to see you in September.
Yeah, it could be interesting, couldn't it? And if it's not for you, but you know people, pass it on.
Right.
Pass on the word.
Exactly. And wouldn't it be great to go as a team to these various places, and wouldn't it be great to produce resources as a team? But one of the places we went to as a two-man team, we went to Crowborough, which is where you live. and it was part of the One Life mission of All Saints and St. Richard's there in Crowborough. Tell us what kind of happened over this last weekend.
Yeah, so it ran Friday through to Sunday, and there were a whole load of events. So Friday afternoon, there was something called Tea at the Glitz, which was a kind of afternoon tea event, primarily slightly older crowd because in the middle of the afternoon, so more retirees and things, but there were some younger ones there. And so there was singing, wasn't there? You know, kind of a pianist and a violin and a bit of Frank Sinatra stuff.
It felt like we were on a cruise ship.
Excellent, yes.
Yeah.
So we had that, and then in the evening there was our gin and jazz evening. So there was a jazz band, and there was some different gins to try, kind of round tables, and obviously again, you're speaking all of them. I'm not going to keep saying that. And then Glenn spoke again, and then we had Ace from Gladiators. So
yes.
Warren
Furman.
is his real name. Warren Furman. Furman.
Yep.
So Warren Furman, he was there for Saturday, wasn't he?
Yep.
And he did a breakfast in the morning, which was more for adults, where he gave his testimony. And then there
I
was
was speaking as well.
You were speaking. There was a family event in the afternoon, teenagers event in the evening, so inflatables and bits and bobs going on. Run the Eliminator, and he would speak a little bit about how he'd come to Christ. And I think you might, if you've seen the livecast before, you might have seen a clip from when he did that at Jesmond.
Yes,
because you spoke to him a few weeks back when you were up there.
That's true. Up in Newcastle. Yep.
Up in Newcastle way. So we had that, and then Sunday you were at all the services, weren't you? In the morning, pretty much.
Yep.
And then in the evening we had Tom McConnell, who is a singer-songwriter who makes good use of guitar loop pedals and, well, not just guitar, loops everything, vocals and keys, piano.
Beatboxing,
does a bit of beatboxing.
One-man band.
So he was doing that, and it was just lots of good stuff going on, really.
It was great. I loved it. I think there must have been over 100 volunteers kind of helping out over the course of the weekend.
Probably, yeah. It was quite a lot of people from what I saw. It was quite varied.
Yeah, and varied kinds of events as well. So the older people for the tea, and then gin and jazz was a different crowd, and then obviously the inflatables brings a different crowd, and Tom McConnell brought a different crowd. So really trying to mix that up and trying to put Jesus in the middle of it all, and yeah, I think this time around it was a good mix of things. It was pretty much something for everyone. You know, it sounds a bit cliched, but something for everyone in there. And I think breaking down the barriers as well, people who came to an event like that, I think are far more likely to then, for instance, take an invitation to Carol's, which is coming up, and so within a month they'll receive another invitation to come back into the building. You've had a good experience, you'll have another good experience, and this time we're going to surround you with all sorts of Christian songs and a little bit of preaching as well. And I think that that really does help people make that journey from beyond the church right to the heart of things. So we pray that people would make that journey. And I just wanted to reflect on one thing that I found myself sort of saying at quite a number of these events. So for instance, at the gin and jazz evening, I kind of did a thing on comedy versus tragedy, which if you've read my Easter little booklet called Divine Comedy, I kind of talk about, what is the shape of life? Is it a comedy? Is it a tragedy? If it's a tragedy, it's shaped like a frowny face. You go up in the world and then you tumble down into the pit. If you're in a comedy, you go down into the pit, but you end on a high. And then you're able to say, with that kind of framing, what is a gin and jazz evening? Is gin and jazz... Is it as good as life gets? Are you on top of the world? Is this a last hurrah before the inevitable? Or is gin and jazz actually a foretaste of the coming feast? Which is it? And just being able to ask that question about the things that we enjoy, joy and love and beauty and goodness, are these things like a thin layer of glaze over the top of dead rubble? Or are they first fruits that actually point forward to some kind of future hope? And I found myself sort of saying similar things again on the Sunday night rather. Tom McConnell doing his music, and it was really fascinating and brilliant and exhilarating at times. And just saying, do you think from a mechanical worldview, can you account for how good and true and beautiful and aesthetically pleasing an evening like tonight is, if you just believe that life is matter in motion? Surely music, awakens you to the fact that this world is not just a great machine that grinds along according to iron laws, but actually there are elements to this world that cannot be accounted for with a mechanical worldview. So we've often done before on thorny questions and so on. The way that the modern worldview is mechanical, and it's just about matter in motion. The most real thing that you can possibly encounter in this world is matter in motion, and everything else just boils down to matter in motion. But there are a whole bunch of other M's that are truly meaningful and that we should worry about. What about music? What about morals? What about meaning? What about metaphysics? What about minds? What about mercy? What about miracles? What about all these things that don't fit into a mechanical worldview? And as soon as people are awakened and alive to that, I think they're much more likely to see the mechanical worldview as sinking sand. And maybe the Christian worldview is the rock on which they can stand. Mm-hmm. That's kind of an argument from beauty, which I don't know. I don't hear very much in modern evangelism.
I guess not.
When you think about it's like a university mission, and you do your lunch bar topics, which are usually your more apologetically based, talks where you're just trying to defend the cogency of the Christian worldview. And you're often asked to defend, is there such a thing as absolute truth? Or what about the truthfulness of the New Testament documents? Or whether Jesus really rose from the dead? Or theodicy, how do you fit God and suffering together? But I don't hear a lot of people talking about there is beauty in this world that is not reducible to brain chemistry. And that if you are a materialist, you kind of do have to boil down your experience of beauty just to a psychological thing, and your psychology boils down to biology, your biology boils down to chemistry, your chemistry boils down to physics, and we're all just quarks and leptons fizzing. What a barren view of the world. But I wonder if the reason why we don't go there so much in our evangelism is because we're not really Trinitarian enough. Because actually, when we talk about ultimate reality, if we're not properly Trinitarian, then the only ultimate reality we can think of is this kind of power that is above us, to which we must bow. And it's not immediately apparent why, when I talk about God, I really mean beauty or love. Whereas when you're talking about the triune God, it should become immediately apparent. When you're talking about this God, you're talking about self-giving love. Anyway, so that's a kind of an argument from beauty, which I'd like to see a lot more of in evangelism, and where I see it really being used in just face-to-face everyday conversation is just being curious with someone. What kind of music do you like, and then why do you like it, and then what is this thing called music? And isn't it stunning that these compression waves in the air are making my eardrum vibrate at a certain frequency, which is sending a certain kind of electrical signal down into my brain, and certain synapses are firing. But that is a completely rubbish account of why we love music. And just encouraging people to think that, there's more than synapses firing in brain chemistry, and there's more than waves kind of dancing in the air, that there's actually ultimate beauty and goodness and truth and love, and that's what Jesus is inviting you into. So anyway, that's my argument from beauty. I offer it to you, to the world. Take it and run with it, or just make jokes about shooting people. That's my thing. That's how I roll. Brilliant. Do we have anything else to go through?
I don't believe so. I think we pretty much covered everything we were going to cover.
I think we're done. Well, how have you enjoyed the YouTube experience? Let us know in the comments, and do be sharing the video around. We'll post this on Facebook as well, and stay tuned on Friday for the release of this as a podcast. Yep. But if you are on podcast, we'd really love you to subscribe to YouTube. It really helps us get seen on YouTube. We did have that case last weekend, was it? Where a guy said, I watched some Jordan Peterson videos and he got me, 90% of the way to Christian faith. And then I watched your videos on YouTube and that got me over the line. It's because we're growing a community on YouTube that actually our YouTube videos start getting seen, start showing up in searches. So it could be the most evangelistic thing you do is...
And click the notification bell.
Right, and click the notification bell, and then you'll be notified of all the new stuff that we have on YouTube. So please do subscribe on YouTube, like us on Facebook, share the wealth on podcasts, and
Yep, all those things.
Yeah, and keep speaking life. How about that?
Absolutely.
I think we're done.
Take care.
Ciao for now. Bye.